Live at noon, this is 13 News Now.
The destruction from Hurricane Irma has begun. Thank you for watching 13 News Now at noon. I'm Lucy Bustamante.
And I'm Andre Sr. This is video from the tiny island of St. Martin. In the last couple of hours, northern Leeward Islands got a direct hit from the storm. And as you can see there, damage and flooding already happening. And
now Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic are under the gun in the coming hours. Tim is actually tracking the tropics. Any changes in the outlook for us, Tim?
There are a few changes that I'll get to with the updated track coming out of the Hurricane Center in just a little bit. But first, I want to talk about the rampage that Irma's been on throughout the Caribbean. First up this morning, Barbuda had almost a direct hit. The eye wall passed just over the north side of the island. Winds measured there on the ground of 155 miles per hour before the reporting station was knocked offline. Then you had St. Martin up next, a direct hit. Now in line, right knocking on the doorstep, are the British Virgin Islands, about to take a direct hit from Irma, which has not weakened at all after 2 landfalls. Normally we see some sort of influence in the strength, not the case here. Up next is going to be a glimpse by Puerto Rico. The eye wall expected to pass just north of the island there. Nonetheless, very gusty winds and catastrophic conditions there. Hurricane warnings up all ahead of the storm, all the way up into the Bahamas, actually. And eventually that'll be spread north into parts of the continental United States. As you look at the track here, still a Category 5 with winds of 185 miles per hour. A noticeable shift east here. Yesterday, we were talking about the possibility of it going along the west coast of Florida, maybe into the Gulf of Mexico. Now it's shifting and doing a path very similar to a few storms that we've had in the past. Most recently, Matthew, when it tracked right along the coastline here and entered the warm waters of the Gulf Stream just off the southeast coastline. Certainly bears watching here. The reason why the models have shifted, well, it actually started to travel northward a little bit earlier than was expected, so they had to redo all the model runs here and show that shift much farther to the east, possibly even missing Florida altogether, the eye wall at least. The outer band still will, and maybe going somewhere up in the Carolinas. Again, this could change, still several days out, but that's the latest update there from the Hurricane Center and the computer models. We'll talk more about what that means for our forecast, plus our risk of severe weather this afternoon. Coming up in just a few minutes, guys.
All right, Tim, thank you. Irma is one of the most powerful storms ever recorded, and it's taking aim, as you saw there, at Florida.
That's why Governor Rick Scott already announced the state of emergency for all 67 counties. And now evacuations are ramping up on the southern tip of the state.
Maggie Rulli continues our coverage this afternoon.
Hurricane Irma's tearing through the Caribbean as a powerful Category 5 and showing no signs of slowing down. St. Bart's, Barbuda, Guadalupe caught up in the devastating path. The storm's now bearing down on St. Martin, battering the tourist hotspot with sustained winds of 185 miles per hour and gusts even higher.
We are literally inside like three doorways in, and this is what you can hear and see.
The U.S. now bracing for impact. Puerto Rico's preparing for a catastrophic event with 700 people already in shelters.
No one is ever ready for a Category 5 hurricane.
And Florida is sitting directly in its path.
This is serious, and we cannot take chances.
The Florida Keys under mandatory evacuation.
If you're told to evacuate, get out quickly. Remember, we can rebuild your home, but we cannot rebuild your life.
Station after station out of gas.
They put up caution tape. Nobody has anything.
Critical supplies running short.
Absolutely crazy. The lines wrapped around the entire inside of the store.
Hundreds of people waiting in line for water in Miami.
Costco sold out of water.
Residents boarding up their windows to protect against expected wind speeds of more than 145 miles per hour. The president has declared a state of emergency in Florida, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. The latest path for Irma shows the storm approaching Florida Saturday afternoon, hitting Miami as a Category 4 hurricane. Then skirting up the eastern side of the state is a Category 3 with wind speeds still at 125 miles per hour. Maggie Rulli, ABC News, New York.
It really is an incredible image to look at. She is a monster storm. This is the live radar. Hurricane watches and warnings have been issued from the Leeward Islands to Cuba. And now officials in the Florida Keys, as you just heard Maggie Rulli say, are being evacuated after helping with search and rescues along the Gulf Coast. Virginia Beach-based Task Force 2 is springing into action yet again. From Harvey to Irma, Irma already packing a punch, so 45 members of the task force are in Puerto Rico, ready to provide assistance.
And while one crew heads into harm's way, another returns home. Several members of Task Force 2 back in Hampton Roads this afternoon. They provided support to the victims of Hurricane Harvey. They returned to the FEMA Center in Virginia Beach last night. And during their time in Katy, Texas, they helped rescue hundreds of people. And we spoke to Battalion Chief Tracy Freeman. He told 13 News Now the destruction is on a scale he has never seen before.
A lot more water damage, a lot more flood damage than what we've seen in the past, even more than Sandy. The way the water was just stayed in the area so long. So typically hurricanes, you get the flood waters at first and then they recede pretty quickly. These waters just kept coming.
Well, early estimates put Harvey at $180 billion in damage, making it one of the costliest natural disasters in U.S. history.
Happening right now in Newport News, a group of protesters out to get justice for this dog, Fenway Fox.
Yeah, we've been following this story for more than a week now. The owners of Fenway say other dogs attacked him while he was at a Coastal Dog Services. Fenway eventually died from his injuries, and today the business owner was in court for a separate incident regarding this case.
That's right. Now, apparently, he allegedly died in his care. Nico Clemens is live at the courthouse. And Nico, you spoke with protesters a little while ago.
I did, and they're chanting "Close Coastal down" and "Justice for Fenway." You could probably hear them behind me. But they're not just demanding justice for Fenway. They're also demanding justice for another dog that allegedly died while at Coastal Dog Services in June. Now, again, behind me, you can see these protesters. They've been going hard, I would say, for the last hour or so. There's about 30 people out here. Again, the owner of Coastal Dog Services is expected in court this afternoon for that June incident. Animal Services already charged Coastal with animal cruelty. Now, I did speak with Fenway's owner a few moments ago, Jason Fox. We've been talking to him for the last 2 weeks almost. He says his goal now is to make sure Coastal no longer stays in business.
Now our focus is really on making sure things like this never happen again, and making sure other people don't go through this, and that boarding facilities are held to a different standard and laws in the state of Virginia are changed.
Now, Coastal's owner, Rick Tavalia, he's expected in court at 1 o'clock. These protesters plan to be out here till about 12:30. Now, I did call to find out and to get an update on this recent investigation at Coastal Dog Services. We're told that that investigation is still ongoing and no charges have been filed at this time. We're back at 4 with an update from today's hearing that starts again at 1 o'clock. Live in Newport News, I'm Nico Clemens, 13 News Now.